Hi, my name is Kirsten, and this video is about making crispy air fryer eggplant fries. I came up with this recipe actually two different ways. I'll slide you back. Two different life experiences that created this recipe. One was that I used to work in an Italian wood-fired pizza restaurant in Dayton, Ohio, and one of the components I made there as a prep cook was some eggplant slices that were included in, I don't know, included in, but it was a component of a bigger dish. So we would bread and bake the eggplant, and then they would be added to this dish. And then I also ate at Meadowlark Restaurant also in Dayton, Ohio, and had the eggplant fries there with the yogurt dipping sauce. And so those two life experiences have turned into this crispy fry that is eggplant with just a touch of oil. You could skip the oil if you wanted, even. It's going to be fine with the yogurt dipping sauce. And it's just delicious. So stay tuned for this recipe. And I want to first go over the ingredients that you'll need for this recipe, and then the equipment that you'll need for this recipe in addition to an air fryer. And then I'll get started making it, okay? So it's eggplant chips. Obviously, you need an eggplant. I'm not going to tell you the size, whatever you end up with is a good one. I wouldn't use the skinny Asian eggplants, the Japanese eggplants. If you have the little fairy eggplants from your CSA, rock on with those. They're not, you'd have to do a lot of chopping and have a lot of them in order to make a batch of eggplant chips. This really works nicely with your standard globe eggplant. So you'll need an eggplant. You will need some rice flour. Oh, I could switch over this way. That's what I was going to do. You will need some rice flour. And rice flour, I prefer this is rice flour. I buy it in bulk, so it's not in there. I prefer rice flour to all-purpose flour just because it has kind of a crispier crust on it. You'll need 1 or 2 eggs. You'll need some milk. You will need spices. And we'll talk about spices later. But as a bare minimum, salt and pepper. If you want to get fancy, add in some Italian herb mix or some Greek seasoning or some garam masala and curry powder. Or. There's so many other ors you could have with that. Some Parmesan cheese or the green can of Shake Shake, whichever floats your boat. If you're avoiding, dairy, I would do this with oat milk or the nut milk of your choice. If you are avoiding dairy, a vegan cheese, or just leave the cheese out, it's not necessary. This sour cream is standing in for plain yogurt. I like plain full-fat yogurt. I don't have any, but I have sour cream, so I'm going to use that today. And then mayonnaise. I like mayonnaise with this. So those are the ingredients you'll need. Eggplant, rice flour, seasonings, egg, milk, plain yogurt, mayonnaise, cheese, finely shredded cheese. And then we'll pop you over to this camera and get back to the equipment that you will need. So you need an air fryer, which is slightly out of shot, and that's fine. You'll need a colander. You will need a medium-sized bowl. And if you can swing one, a wide, shallow bowl. A rimmed baking sheet to kind of store all these things off on, and some parchment paper. All right, let's get started with this. I'm going to shove all this other stuff out of the way and try not to have any of it fall on the floor because that will freak Miss Molly out. I don't want to freak Miss Molly out. All right, let me go over there. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is chop up the eggplant. Grab my compost bucket. Oh, and you need a knife. Always need a knife. I'm going to slice off the ends and pop them in the compost. I don't really know anything to do with the ends of eggplant. The ends of carrots I feed to bunnies. The ends of celery go in a soup pack. I don't really know a thing to do with end of eggplant. So for some of the eggplants, some of these chips, you could slice them in about quarter to a half-inch size slices, make little half moons. Bada bing, bada bing. I am kind of interested in making some square chips. So I'm gonna cut this into kind of a block. Slide you off for a second. And do again about a quarter to a half an inch thick. And then move, come up with some sticks that are about suitable for dipping. So I'm going to try some of those. Yeah, try some of those and a few of these. Save you. See how I do about making another square. Switch the camera so you can see what I'm trying to do here. I've never done this before, so. All right, so I'm trying to square this off. I just, yeah. We'll see how that goes. You'll notice I'm leaving the peel on. That's very deliberate because the eggplant chips that I have had in the past out at restaurants leave the peel and it's good. All right, throw those in and square you up. Cutting is easier when things are square. So I'm gonna throw these in here. There you are. And then I'm gonna sprinkle them with salt. And then I'm gonna let them set aside for about 20 minutes over the sink to drain. All right. Now, let me hit pause. And we'll be back. Okay, so after the eggplant have sat in a colander with some salt on them for about 20 minutes, up to an hour, you know, this is not a precisely timed recipe. Just give it a good 20 minutes. If you forget about it for an hour, or probably not more than 2 hours, but if you forget about it for an hour, it's fine. After they have set for a while, you're going to want to prepare your breading station. And for your breading station, you're going to need some seasoned rice flour. I'm going to put this somewhere. Slide you all over. You're going to need some seasoned rice flour. So I've got some rice flour, and I'm going to add a pinch of salt to it. You probably have more specific instructions. And really whatever floats your boat. Often I like to do Greek seasoning, which I mix the Greek seasoning in with the rice flour as well as in with the yogurt. Tonight I'm kind of in an Italian mood, so I'm going to do some Italian herb seasoning. If I were thinking, I would have mixed it up with a fork and then beaten up the eggs. But, you know, sometimes curry is what's making me happy. I don't really know. But a little salt, a little Italian herb, probably not a little pepper. So I will whisk that together with a fork or a whisk. And this is in a bigger bowl, the rice flour, since I will be putting more pieces in there. To my left, in the middle, egg and milk mixture. So dry, then wet. I think I say a cup of milk. We'll just see how that goes. Egg and milk mixture. A little more beating of this. to get it all mixed in. And then we're going to end up on a piece of parchment over here on this rimmed baking sheet. And if you get all this set up before your eggplant is ready, then you are ready when it's time to go. All right, I like to put the egg and milk mixture in a shallow bowl because that gives it a little more space to use. And see, we don't need you guys. Clear out. And a piece of parchment. I was going to say, Molly is frightened by the sound of parchment paper. Partly the tearing, partly otherwise. Did you know that if you crumple up parchment paper and then smooth it out, it won't roll back up on itself? Now you do. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a dry hand and a wet hand. And I might even have a glove. We'll see. I have a dry hand and a wet hand. And I'm going to pick up some of the eggplant, a few pieces, toss it in the rice flour with the dry hand, get it all coated in the rice flour, and then the dry hand's going to put it in the egg milk mixture, and then the dry hand goes away. And the wet hand is going to coat it in the egg milk mixture and move it onto the parchment paper. Okay, so I'll do this a little bit this way, and then I'll switch the camera over, maybe, and then just kind of speed it up, fade it out. I don't know what I'll do, but you don't need to watch every one of these. So we'll just grab a few pieces, dry hand. And the reason I go in this order is the final touch happens to be my dominant hand, my right hand. So take off the extra rice flour, pop it in the egg mixture. A little bit more. These. Okay, dry hand done. Wet hand. Spin it around, shake off the extra egg. Thoroughly coat. Okay, now you keep on going. We'll do the half moon pieces, or some of them, if I can find them. Half moon pieces. Toss them all in this big bowl with the seasoned rice flour, some Italian seasoning for me today. But this is one of those where this recipe could go along with a wide variety of side dishes or themes that you're making. Dry hand, done. Flip. And I typically will keep on doing this until I've gotten every last piece done before I start air frying. If you have hungry people or a smaller air fryer and want to just start going, cooking them, please feel free. But I'm going to keep on going until I've gotten everything done. Okay, through the magic of TV and the little fast thing I've done, I have finished all the eggplant, and as you can see, it ended up being more than this little piece, as it always is. I always underestimate, but all the eggplant has been sliced, salted, drained in the colander, and then tossed with seasoned rice flour, and then in an egg and milk mixture, and put on a piece of parchment paper. Now I'm going to preheat my air fryer to 375. And do two things while it's preheating. I'm going to spray the eggplant with a little bit of oil spray. This is an optional step. It might help with some browning. If you want to completely avoid oil, please feel free to completely avoid oil. And then I'm gonna drizzle on some parchment Parmesan cheese over top, especially on some of the fat ones, just because they have a lot of surface area that I would like to cover with cheese. Okay, so a little bit of oil spray for everybody while they're sitting on the parchment. All right. And then a little snowdrift of Parmesan cheese on the thicker slices, not on every last one. And again, I'm doing Parmesan cheese because I'm going with an Italian herb mix seasoning for this. But you could skip this if you're going with Greek salad, the Greek seasoning, you could skip this part. I wouldn't try and put some feta on top of it. And some of you guys. Yeah. And maybe the ones in the middle as well. Just a little bit. Because I've got it. If you got the green can of Parmesan, use that. Oh my gosh, use that. All right. So one more thing. Because I got a lot of stuff, even though I have a fairly good sized air fryer, this is an Instant Pot Vortex Plus. It's a 10-quart air fryer. What I like about it is that it has these two trays, and one of these with tater tots lined up, as many as I can fit on this in a single layer, is fine for a family of 3 or 4. Enough tater tots as a side dish for us. But I like that because one thing can be tater tots and the other one can be bratwurst or whatever. But this is still not enough surface area for me to cook all of these in one go. So I'm going to preheat my oven to 200 just to keep the rest of them warm. So I can work in batches. If you've got, okay, we'll do 230. If you've got a bucket size air fryer and the ability, either you have hungry people who are just going to eat in shifts, or you have the ability to have it staying warm, do that, preheat an oven. Now, this will need, these will need space to move, so don't crowd them in the pan. I'm going to switch over to the other camera so we can see how I'm putting them in the pan. And I will keep one hand clean. For my air fryer, things that are on the outside cook faster. So I do the thicker things on the outside and thinner things on the inside. You are thinner, sticky on the inside. Thicker ones on the outside. And the thicker parts, spin your own, thicker parts going to the outside of my air fryer. Just so everybody has space to move. I think one more. All right. So I'm not going to put any more than that on this particular tray. And hey, the thing beep. So I'm going to pop that in the air fryer right now. Okay. Okay. So while the eggplant chips are cooking at 375, and we're going to go with, I would check them, shake them around 7 or 8 minutes, and then check them, shake them again in like 5-minute increments after that until they're browned and what you want to see. But while they're cooking, go ahead and mix up your dipping sauce, your yogurt dipping sauce. The stand-in here, sour cream using for yogurt, because I don't have any yogurt. And I'm going to mix up a little bit of mayonnaise, about a tablespoon or 2 for a cup of yogurt. And if you want to go crazy with it, a little bit of garlic, which I kind of feel like, because I feel like the garlic and the parm would go nicely. About a half a teaspoon of minced garlic, half a clove. I mean, who has half a clove? Put a whole clove in. And like a teaspoon of Italian mix, Greek seasoning mix, curry powder, and garam masala. Little salt, little pepper. and give it a stir. This yogurt sauce, in addition to being a delicious dip for eggplant chips, also good for sweet potato fries, zucchini fries, roasted potatoes. Really, there's a lot of things that are enhanced by a nice yogurt sauce. If you don't have any tartar sauce, then you could dice up some pickles and kind of a little DIY tartar sauce. But there's that. Let me set that aside. And then I'll switch cameras and we'll pull out a batch and see how this is looking. This is what happens when I get busy making focaccia and not paying attention. This was a total of, oh, but they're so crispy. Yeah, that is an eggplant fry. That's for sure. Right. We'll stack o fry there. Stack o fry here. They're light. They're not soggy at all. They're light. They're crispy. And because of the base, the pattern of my instant pot, well, instant pot, right? Pattern of my air fryer, you have this on them. Would that be there if I flipped it over? I don't really know. But let me set that aside. Set you over here. And then we'll switch over to the other cam and plate this up. Serving. So to serve this, I'm gonna put a couple dollops of the yogurt sauce and then a stack of crispy light eggplant fries. Oh my goodness. If you wanted to be like super fancy, another snow of parmesan on top of that if you're doing the Italian seasoning. But holy cow, crispy eggplant fries. This is why I love my air fryer. I mean, it's good in the oven, but it is better in the air fryer.